Okay, so let's move on. We've got 3 sessions to see EclerNet Manager. We won't see everything, but we will cover almost everything. So we will keep. We have a lot to do. Okay. Okay, so EclerNet Manager. Let's go in. Introduction. EclerNet Manager software. Okay, this is software that runs on Windows, not on Mac, not on Windows Server versions, just regular Windows. Okay, it's for controlling our digital audio system. Okay, it works over Ethernet in a shared LAN, and it allows the creation of user control panels, which are these panels to control your system. You create by yourself customized panels. So these panels need a web server to be launched, and this web server is also included in our EclerNet Manager software. Okay, so a PC can act as a server. About the hardware, we've got premium digital products that are EclerNet Manager products. Okay, they are programmed and controlled with EclerNet Manager software, obviously. And we have different user interfaces, such as analog remotes or digital ones, or UCPs, user control panels, okay, that can be reached and read from PC, iOS devices, or Android devices. Most of the devices, of EclerNet devices, are ready for third-party control, like AMX, Crescent needs. In fact, there are available some of these drivers in their brand library, so you can reach them as well. If not, we've got an open language which is called TPNet. Okay, here you will find it's an open protocol. You can find the commands you can just send to our devices to control them. The audio is over IP, so we have, okay, the audio is analog on one side, or we can just, we have devices that work with Dante or AS67. Okay, so over IP, we only trust in Dante, let's say, or we only use Dante, okay? Okay, so let's see the product range. We've got players, we've got matrices, we've got paging stations, we've got remotes and amplifiers, control screens, Dante interfaces, and video over IP. All these type of devices are connected onto the network, and we have some peripherals which are connected to these devices. So, for example, the analog remotes are connected directly to the devices, not to the LAN. We've got these digital remotes that are connected to the LAN, okay? Also, we've got an M page and a paging station, which is connected directly to the matrix, okay? We will be getting deeper and deeper in this. So do not care now. Do not get worried about not knowing much about what I'm saying, because we will see later on more things about this. Okay, so let's start. Which devices do we have in EclerNet Manager? Concretely, as a player, we have DuoNet player. As matrices, we have MIMOs. We've got MIMO 88, MIMO 1212, MIMO 88 SG, MIMO 1212 SG, MIMO 88, and MIMO 4040 DN. These are hardware, okay? So we can reach to other devices, okay? We upgrading the firmware. So you can get to MIMO 88 SG upgrading the firmware, and you will get to MIMO 88 SG conference, okay? and you can go back again if you want. We also can reach other devices beginning from these 4 pieces of hardware. Okay. As a paging station, we have PageNet, okay, that is connected to the network. We have these digital remote controls, NXA amplifiers. So these are digitally controlled amplifiers with a DSP inside. We got WPNet Touch, which is a control screen. The Dante interfaces. Each time you see a DN in some of our hardware is because it's Dante, it has Dante inside, okay? Sorry. And we have VIA devices, XTI2L, XRAI2L, and the transmitter and the receiver, which are the ones that sends video over IP, okay? Okay, so these are all controlled with EclerNet Manager, controlled and configured from EclerNet Manager. These all except one, which is the WP22DN, which is a Dante interface, and it's purely a Dante interface. You cannot change any parameter from EclerNet Manager. So it's even not seen from EclerNet Manager, but it's in this presentation because just for showing the possibilities of Dante inside EclerNet Manager, okay? Okay, so which ones we have Dante? In MIMO 4040DN, in the conference version, and of course in Dante interfaces, and PageNet also includes Dante. And video over IP, only these devices, the ones of video, it's included. So we have everything just that is plugged into the network. Okay, so EclerNet devices are identified with an IP address as everything in a network, okay? So they do not work with DHCP. They need a static IP. The IPs, all IPs in the EclerNet Manager, in the EclerNet network should have the same range, okay? This, for those who do not know much about networks, just it's you have to. We can look at an example here. So several devices, it's just one system. One system is one EclerNet Manager project. All the devices must be in the same range. No DHCP supported. So we've got a network which has this range. 11, 11, 1, okay? This is the fixed numbers we need to introduce to our devices so they can see each other. So here we can see as we have different IPs, they are unique in the network, so you cannot repeat them. And so you need the help of the IT department. If the network is a shared network with other devices, you need the help of the IT department so they can just assign you some free IPs so you do not get in conflict with other devices in the network. You need to know also that the factory default IP address is 192.168.0.100. So when you start with an installation, maybe you need, or either you may connect directly each device and assign the new IP to them, or maybe if it's a new network with no devices, you can just be plugging one device at a time, changing its IP address and just plugging the new one, because all of them, no matter if it's MIMO 88 or NXA or DualNet player, all of them come by factory, they come into this IP address. This is quite important, okay? Okay, so this is the slippery zone for the audio guys. So you just have to be aware of this, because most of the troubles you get when you try to connect to a system is because of network. Okay, just you have to know that you can plug your device into the PC. This it never fails. I mean, if you plug the device into the PC, you always see the device. Okay, so if you have some problems, first try to connect directly so you can just see the device is perfectly working, and then you just try to see what's happening with your network. Okay, so we've got all of these devices. Let's start making an overview of each one very fast. Okay, here DuoNet player. Okay, this is a dual stereo player. It can play streaming or LAN files you have got in your network, or SD. You've got an SD port here or an USB port here. Okay, you've got remote control. And you've got also inside the event time scheduler. And this is very common to use DuoNet player as a ring bell, maybe in a school, or this type of applications. When you do this, it's very important to have the NTP sync option activated. This is network time protocol, just to keep the DuoNet on time. Okay, it's very important. So you have to, DuoNet has to have connection to the internet, and you have to enable this. This would any kind of delay it has or whatever, it will be automatically corrected every day, and you don't have to let's say you will not have to again synchronize the clock of your computer with this, because it will be always on time. Okay. It also have priority manager modules. Okay, so maybe you've got an alarm system and you want the GPI. It's connected to a GPI here. You've got some GPIs. So when the contact closure is activated, it will play the priority manager module and will override whatever is playing, background music, whatever, and play a message. This is all configured by software. Okay, it has 4 GPI, up to 4 GPIs. Okay, you see that I didn't show you here. We got the 2 players, player A and player B. So right, left, and right, left. They are independent players. You can just play the same file at the same time, or different files from different media. There's no limit in there. Okay, so also you have vary speed. Vary speed is just for changing the pitch, the speed. So it's very common to be used in gyms, for example. And you've got also 5 function keys, which can be assigned to whatever you want. And also in the remote control, you've got these ones with the background in black are function keys you can assign to whatever you want. It don't have to be related to the ones of the front of the panel. Okay. Okay, and more things. Let's go further. Let's go for an application example for DuoNet. Let's think about the gym. A gym, you've got a wireless microphone, and you've got a DuoNet. So you give to the girls the remote control and the wireless microphone. Okay. You've got an installation here, but for configuring DuoNet player, you have plugged a computer. Okay, and if you want, you can create with EclerNet Manager, you can create some UCPs. So what will happen if this network has Wi-Fi? It not only can be controlled with the remote control or from the front panel, you can just use a cellular phone, a mobile phone, and just reach these UCPs and also control this DuoNet player. Okay, this would be the smallest EclerNet Manager project, just one device, and you can control this device from many places, as you see. Okay, many locations. Okay, so now let's continue with matrices. We've got MIMO 88SG and 1212SG. Okay, these are 8 inputs, 8 outputs, or 12 by 12. And we've got DSP inside that we can control level, EQ, compressor, many tools we will see next day, probably. We've got 8 or 12 GPIs. In this case, you see, we've got 12 GPIs. You see, from 1 to 12, this is MIMO 1212. Here we've got the inputs, balanced inputs, and the outputs, balanced outputs as well. Okay, and much more. Okay, this is the LAN connection. Okay, here we've got RS232 port just to third-party control. Okay, our matrices, our devices do not send commands. Our RS232, they just receive commands. Okay, here's a remote control that it can be used for connecting the EM page. Okay, let's think about example. Let's think about a club with many areas. Okay, the entrance, bar 1, bar 2, area 1, area 2, and toilets and VIP. Okay, maybe with a PA, so you've got a stereo, VIP, and we've got background music. We've got a microphone as well, TV, a DJ that comes sometimes, and sometimes is just the background music, and sometimes comes the DJ, and the VIP TV. Okay, how we can solve this, as they are 8 areas, maybe with a MIMO 88 SG, we can just manage all this. Okay, so for background music, we can use a DuoNet player. So it's got 2 players, 2 background musics. We can use WPA Mix T. WP means stands for wall panel, analog. Okay, and this is a Mix T. In fact, it's not a passive wall panel, it's a mixer. So as long it's a 2-channel mixer, you see, microphone, an XLR microphone input, and RCA line input. So as long as it is a mixer, it needs to be powered. Okay, so we need to add a WP24 PSU or a WP PSU. We've got 2 possible options. Okay, just do not forget about this, because they are not. It's not included with the product, because it works. It can work with some other products without this PSU. Okay, but in this case, in our case, EclerNet, you need the power supply. Okay, we've got also a wireless microphone and 2 connections. These are passive, 2 connections, combo connections for the DJ. Okay, and we plug everything into the matrix. Okay, we've got the amps that just fit the lines of each area. Okay, so we've got this installation, and it will we will notice that the customer wants to adjust the volumes, so we will need to put some volumes onto this to control them. This can be WPA volume. Okay, WPA vol, which is this one. This is a remote control. It's basically a potentiometer. Okay, and we've got WPA vol SR. Vol means volume, SR means selector. Okay, so these are 2 potentiometers. Okay, so these are analog devices. They are plugged into the GPI, and they are plugged like this. Okay, you've got ground, you've got 12 volt, and here you decide which, let's say, if we talk about volume, if you turn into the left, it will get ground here, so you will got 0 volt here in the middle. If you go, you turn it to the right, so you will get to the maximum to 12 volt. If you put it into the middle, you will get 6 volt here. So depending on the voltage here, you will get more values into the volume or less. From in the software, it is seen as 0 or 100. 100 means 12 volt, 0 means ground. Okay. Okay, so what happens here? Here there's a kind of mistake. Okay, why? Because here this is a MIMO 88, so it has 8 GPIs, and we are trying to connect more than 8. So if you count with me, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So each potentiometer needs a GPI. Okay, so we've got 9 GPIs here. So we've got to do how we solve this. We could change this into a MIMO 1212, for example, or we can just avoid one of the, maybe in the toilet it's not necessary to have a volume control. Okay, another choice, it could be using digital controls. Okay, these digital controls, remember, they are directly connected into the network. So we can connect this. This is the 8 key, meaning 8 buttons, and this is the 4 key V. 4 keys, 4 buttons, and one. The V is for volume as well. This is an encoder, in fact. Okay, so you can plug this into the network, and it will be controlled. It will control the MIMO. Okay, so this is another solution, but maybe your client is not so happy because it costs more than the analog solution. More or less, 3 WP volt SR cost as much as one of the digital ones. Okay, so maybe we can just look for a combined solution. Can we combine analog devices and digital devices? The answer is yes, as long as you don't try to control the same parameter. So if this device controls the volume of bar 1, you cannot assign a WPA volt controlling the volume of bar 1. Okay, why? Because a software piece of device won't change the voltage which is in the GPI. So you will only be capable of seeing which level you have, but you will not be able from the digital device to change the volume. Okay, the same it happens if you use a UCP. If a UCP, a fader, is assigned to a parameter that it's controlled for an analog remote, you will see the level of the fader, but you won't be able to change it, because this means changing the voltage in the GPI, and this is not possible. Okay, just take into account this. Can we link to MIMOS SG? SG stands for single, which means 1. Okay, so in fact they cannot be linked, but you can always just split the sources, and if you connect one source onto both MIMOs, for example here MIMO 1212 SG and 88 SG, and you can connect them to both matrices, and source 2 as well, and source 3 and source 4 up to 8. Okay, and you would have like a kind of MIMO 820. So this is 8 inputs, okay, and 20 outputs. It will be like an asymmetric matrix, and for the user it will work the same way. Okay, and this is I mean, SG matrices are quite cheaper than the other ones, so it might be a good solution and not so expensive. if this solution fits your project. Okay. Okay, so we have another matrix, which is MIMO88, which is not single, so it can be married. Okay, it's expandable. You can plug another MIMO88, just one, okay, with the link bus. So with this RJ45 connector, you can just link two of them and make a MIMO, let's say 1616, okay, like a MIMO 1616, because you've got 16 inputs and 16 outputs. Okay, we've got more or less the same DSP tools as MIMO 88SG or 12SG. We've got 8 GPIs and 8 GPOs. Attention, because the SG versions do not have any GPOs. This is an important difference besides the feature that is linkable, okay? And much more. Let's see an application. So we've got a hotel, okay? And we've got up to 16 zones. And we've got also a lot of inputs, okay? Background, conference, casino mic, whatever, a DJ. So we've got here, it's like 9 inputs, okay? And a pager to page each and every zone. Sorry. So we can use a MIMO88 linked to another MIMO88, don't we? So let's see, what's the advantage? You can just share this background music to the other matrix without just a cable and via software. From the software, it's seen like one device. You don't see two devices. You see just like one device, and you will not see this. They are apart, okay? But you have to be careful. You need not a regular cable, but a cross cable, okay, to connect these two ports. And you select the switch which is in the back. You will select if it's master or if it's slave, okay? Once they are connected, you connect it to the network, the master unit, and you will see as just one matrix, okay? This is an advantage because you can separate, and you can maybe use in the basement, you can use one MIMO, and you can put in the third floor another MIMO, and they are seen as a one piece of device, but you can have the inputs in 2 floors. So it might be useful sometimes. You connect, they needed a pager, so you can connect an EM page onto the master unit, and this is a 16-button paging station, so you can just manage both. Okay, maybe you need some WPNet touch, so some screens. Which one will be the master? The one that sends other UCPs to other devices, no matter if this acts as a server, we can say that these are clients, okay? So you can have a WPNet touch as a client, or browsers in PCs as a client. They connect to the IP of this UCP server, or either if you have Wi-Fi, you can just connect some Android or iOS devices with the UCP application we have in the Apple Store or Google Play or whatever is the store you're using, okay? So what about conference version? It's the same hardware as we said, we only made a firmware change, okay? And we can upgrade to conference. If you don't like, you can just make another upgrade and go back to the regular version that comes from factory. Okay, so for what is a conference MIMO? Okay, for these versions, we have 2 extra tools, which is auto mixing and feedback killer. Okay, these are 2 tools that are available in conference. So it's just made for this kind of rooms. You have several microphones and you don't have a technician and you need some these auto mixing features or feedback killer just to avoid also feedbacks. Okay. But this is for free. Well, in terms of money, yes, it's for free. In terms of DSP, no, it's not for free. Okay, you lose some features. So there are not as many. There are not paging models, but who cares? Because it's aimed for a room with microphones. So there's no paging microphone, and it's comprehensible. I mean, you don't need a paging microphone in a conference room. We lose the input delay as well. And what is more important is that we lose 4 independent outputs. So we only have 4 independent outputs. Okay, so the clone, you will have clone outputs from the other side. So let's say let's see it in the software. It's better just to see it than to explain. If we go here to the software, okay, this is EclerNet Manager. Now I'm adding a MIMO 88, for example, and I get in. Okay, this is the matrix. So, and we will add also a MIMO 88 conference version. Okay, so we can see the difference. Here's the matrix. Okay, you've got several tabs: inputs, matrix, outputs, pagers, GPIs, and remotes. Here we have the MIMO conference. As you see, we have the same tabs, but we have 2 extra ones that are auto mixer and feedback killer. You see inputs, matrix, outputs, daggers. You see just 1 dagger. We've got no paging. Here we've got 4 pager daggers. Here in the MIMO conference, we only have 1 dagger. Auto mixer, feedback killer, GPIs and GPOs, and remotes. Okay, but I wanted to show you regarding the matrix. Okay, this is the regular version of MIMO 88. So you've got 8 independent mixes you can send to these outputs. These are inputs and these are outputs. So you can just send whatever you want, where you want, and create independent mixes for each and every output. Okay, right. What happens with MIMO conference? You've got only 4 independent mixes. Okay, and what about these outputs from 5 to 8? We cannot use these ones? Yes, you can, but they need to be cloned. So here we have output 1, output 2. You have all of the tools are available in this version. Okay, but for output 5, you see, we only have delay, gain, and level. And you get the signal from one of these outputs. So you've got a cloned output, okay, and you've got some parameters to change. So it can be used for delay the loudspeakers or whatever. Okay, this happens the same for the next 4 outputs. Okay, this is what only 4 independent outputs means. Okay. Okay, it was here, so I did not need to just put the software. So here we see what I have already shown. Okay, MIMO 4040DN. Okay, this is a matrix of 40 by 40 inputs and outputs, 8 analog inputs and outputs, and 32 Dante inputs and outputs. Okay, Dante come from these ports. Okay, we've got primary and secondary, and the control is from this port, Ethernet port. Okay, we've got as well DSP level, EQ, compressor, noise gates. Okay, and we've got GPOs as well. Okay, and notice that we don't have any remote port. Do you remember that I showed you that there's a remote port to connect EM page? We do not have this remote port in MIMO 4040, so it's not supported the EM page. It has its own paging station. We will see later on. And much more than ever from version 1.08 R1, which means the one that is now available on the website. Why? Because in this version, we added the conference version for MIMO 40x40, okay, which was not available since now. But this is our flagship, okay? So I want to talk about it afterwards because I want to introduce some more concepts before talking about MIMO 4040 and MIMO 4040 conference, okay? Let's move on and let's see NXA series. It's an amplifier, digital audio manager, okay? It has a digital matrix and a little DSP inside, and it's a multi-channel amplifier, okay? We have models of 4 and 6 channels from 80 to 700 watts. It's 100% silent as it doesn't have any fan inside. It has an integrated DSP, okay, and much more. We have GPIs as well. No, GPIs are these ones, okay? These one are the outputs and the inputs, okay? And here is the connection, the Ethernet connection, okay? If we will have a bar, let's think about an application, which we have maybe 2 loudspeakers inside and 2 other outside in the terrace. We've got background music, a TV, and a DJ that comes sometimes, okay? So we can just use an NXA for that and just plug everything in, WPA mix, and these wall plates with the combo connection for the DJ, and just plug onto the loudspeakers. NXA are low impedance amplifiers. There's no high impedance versions, okay? WPNet Touch is a 10-inch touchscreen. This is the resolution, 1280 by 800, okay? It has an integrated CPU, so it's able to run EclerNet projects as a UCP server. As we said before, this screen can store UCPs and act as a UCP server, meaning that any in the network that connects to its IP will get the UCPs. So a PC with a browser, if in the network, if it points to this IP of the WPNet Touch, will receive this panel as well, and can be controlling the same panels as the WPNet Touch. Okay. It's surface mount, and there's a wall bracket included with this screen, and it's also something that it's very interesting. It's PoE, so it can be powered from the switch, meaning just one cable from the switch to the screen and no power needed. Or if you don't have a switch with PoE, PSU is included with the device. Okay, is it expensive? Well, depends. It's just 2.7 times the WPNet 4KV, but it's a lot more friendly. So you can just put whatever you want in here, images, text, explanations, and as we said, it's a UCP server, so it's quite an interesting solution. Okay. If we have a MIMO 88 SG, 1212 SG, or MIMO 88, okay, we have an installation. We connect this into the network, and we configure from a PC. Okay. Okay. But we can have not only PCs, but also mobile or Android devices to just connect to these devices. If you don't like the solution, that depending on a PC, okay, you can just just configure the system with the PC and then change this UCP server from a PC to a WPNet Touch, and will work and perform as well. Okay. Okay, paging station. This is the paging station that was launched with MIMO 40x40. As we said, EM page is not compatible with MIMO 4040, so we have to use this paging station, which is a screen with a microphone. Okay. It's a virtual paging console based on UCP panels. It's Dante based, so this microphone is sent with a Dante transmitter. Okay, and not only this microphone, but here in the bottom there's an RCA connection, and a stereo connection. So an auxiliary input is also transmitted by Dante. So we can have a microphone and some kind of player here next to the paging station, and all will be sent by a Cat5 cable onto the network. Okay. It has also an analog mic output. Why? Because it was so successful that we also contemplated or incorporated this output for using this paging station with MIMO 88 or 1212 SG, or the ones that do not integrate Dante. So you can just plug this onto the network, and the audio can be done with an analog cable, okay, up to the paging station. As it is a screen, you can also integrate other UCPs and can act as a UCP server, just as WPNet Touch, as we have seen in WPNet Touch. Okay, so next. It was missing one point. PoE, it's PoE. Okay, so as before, you can just, if you're using MIMO 4040 and you have a PoE switch, it's only one cable from the PageNet station up to the switch. So the power is included with this cable. If not, the power supply, the external power supply, it's included with the device. Okay. We have the N44 Bob. This is our Dante interface. It's EclerNet compatible. Okay, it's got 4 analog inputs that are connected to Dante transmitters, and 4 analog outputs which are connected also to the Dante receivers. So we receive signals from Dante, and they are available here in the analog outputs. 4 GPIs and 4 GPOs, okay? And the Dante is not made from the Dante routing, so which signals comes to here or to where are sent these signals. This is not controlled by EclerNet Manager, is controlled by Dante controller, okay? Which is from the software from Audinate. Okay, here we can see, as you see here, we have PageNet and we've got the microphone on the line. Okay, so we can route it to a Bob, for example. And this is Dante controller, so you will click here, and after sometimes it will make this subscription. It's called in Dante, it's called subscription. It's not called routing, but it's the same concept. Okay. Audinate has a lot of information in his website. Okay, and have also certification trainings, which is very interesting. I invite you to just get onto audinate.com/certify, okay, because it's quite interesting. It's something that nowadays Dante is quite a wide protocol used for many manufacturers, not only Ecler, but they've gotten more than 400 manufacturers with Dante devices. So it's quite a common thing, and I invite you. It's very interesting to know about Dante if you want to get insight in this type of installations. And it's for free, so there's no excuse. And there are several languages as well. I've seen Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, English, so no excuses. Okay, let's think about an application of Bob. Okay, if we've got an open plan floor office, okay, so like this, maybe we have 3 floors like this with many people, and we want just 2 players of messages, okay, and background music in floor 1, 3 independent background musics, each for one floor, each for every floor, sorry. And a pager, which will be maybe in the entrance of the building, so the man or the woman that is in the entrance can page to any of the floors. So how we would design this? Okay, let's think about possibilities. For example, the messages are managed by DuoNet Player and connected onto a MIMO 88. Okay, here we have both message players. Here we have the paging station, so it's connected to the remote port. Remember that remote port that we have behind MIMO 88 and MIMO SG. Okay, paging station has to be connected. The audio has to be connected to one of the inputs physically. So if you have a MIMO 88 with M page, you will have 7 inputs left because one will be used by EM page. Okay. Okay. And this will be EclerNet controlled. Okay. From maybe a WPNet touch. So we can just control the volumes, and maybe we can use a button to send messages from DuoNet Player, whatever. Okay, so we have 3 floors, so we will connect 3 of these outputs to a DN44 bulb, and this will be converted onto Dante. Okay, so what we will have in each and every floor? And we can just use EclerNet, not EclerNet, but Ecler device. This is not EclerNet, it's just an amplifier with a Dante input. Okay, so you've got a Dante input or a Dante receiver and a local input. So here with these 2 buttons, you can just switch them to make Dante be the priority input or the local one. So in this case, we will configure it to be background music as the regular input just, and whenever it arrives a Dante message, it will override whatever is playing in the background music, and it will be sent onto the loudspeaker line. Okay. So how we make this routing? With Dante controller, of course. Okay. We have the same in the other floors. So that's it. We've got this installation of this floor office. Can we think about another solution? Yes, I'll leave you some seconds to think. What alternative solution can we see here? Well, maybe we can just change these devices with a MIMO 4040. In fact, MIMO 4040 is more or less the same price that a MIMO 88 and a DN44 bulb. Okay, so here we will have a lot of of outputs left. So if in any time there's another the 4th floor or the 5th floor, 2 more floors, there's no trouble. Just it will be able MIMO 4040 to manage that. In the other case, okay, this has only 4 floors, 4 outputs, okay. So and 4 inputs. So if we add 2 more, we will need another bulb beside this one, which will make the system more expensive than this system. Okay. We can also, as we cannot connect an EM page, we have to connect a PageNet DN. But again, a PageNet DN is more or less the same price that a WPNet Touch and an M-Page paging station. And we have this auxiliary input, so the one of the reception maybe can have an extra player or whatever. So it's quite a nice solution and more flexible than the other one we had before. Okay. Okay, let's move on and let's see another interface. After DN44 Bob, we've got WP22DN. Okay, 2 inputs and 2 outputs, wall panel interface. It's Ethernet. Okay, we connect to Ethernet. It's a Dante interface, and it also PoE. Okay, so it can be power supply from the switch. This power supply, as it's mainly used with the switch, we don't include this power supply into the device. So if you want external power supply, you need to buy WP24 PSU. Okay. Okay. So we've got also 2 mic line balanced inputs in a combo connector, which are these 2. Okay, can be phantom powered or not. We can choose. And they are sent into 2 Dante transmitters. Okay, we've got 2 balanced outputs. Okay, which are doubled on the back with Euroblock connectors that come from Dante receivers. For the Dante transmitters, we can choose if we want to send channel 1 into the transmitter number 1 or both channels summed up. It's the same in Dante. How we choose this? Because you remember this is not really an EclerNet device, but it's a Dante interface. How we choose to send one thing or the other? Okay, here we've got. If you take the wall, not the wall, but the panel in front of this wall panel, okay, this metallic plate, okay, you will see you have the switches and you have the potentiometers to adjust also the sensitivity of the inputs. Okay, so this is it. Remember this. This is a Dante interface of 2 inputs and 2 outputs, but it looks like a double wall plate, but you cannot separate. It's just one piece of device. It's the electronics go from here to here in the back, so you cannot split them into 2 little Dante interfaces. Okay, it's one device. Okay, so if we get back to the example we did before of the 3 floors of OpenOffice, we can change this, the ECA 120HZDN, for a little amplifier, which is an analog amplifier, and connecting this wall plate to the analog amplifier. We get even more flexibility because we can just receive signals, but we also, here we can receive 2 signals. Before we had only 1, and we can send also signals onto the network. So we can share, okay, we can share the signals, the background music on floor 1 to background music floor 2, for example. Okay, So, well, it's quite interesting as well. Okay. Okay. Now let's see MIMO 4040, the end. Okay. As we said, it's a matrix with 8 analog inputs and 32 digital inputs as well as outputs. It has the same DSP tools as regular MIMO, okay? So parametric EQs, noise gates, compressors, etc. But here are the main important difference. A regular MIMO, let's say a MIMO SG, has 3 modules of paging Dockers. MIMO 88 has 4, and this one used to have 10 in the past, but from this version, from this latest version, it has 25 modules of Docker paging, okay? It also integrates a UCP server. You know that we said before that for MIMO 88, 1212 SG or 88 SG, we need a WPNet touch or a PC to be able to use UCP panels. In this case, MIMO 40 by 40 integrates a UCP server. So you don't need anything else. You can connect your, if it's connected to the network, obviously, you can just connect your PC onto the IP of the MIMO 4040 and you will receive the UCP panels if you have created them, of course. It also integrates NTP sync option, okay, synchronization as the DuoNet player, which was not included in other MIMOs. So we've got 8 analog input ports, okay, and 8 analog output ports, and 2 monitoring, okay. Output ports, we have a jack also in the front panel, okay, for monitoring purposes as well. This is also in MIMO 88. So monitoring is available in MIMO 88 and MIMO 4040 and DN, not in SG versions, okay? We've got 32 Dante input ports and 32 Dante output ports, okay? This is made through this Dante interface with primary and secondary connection, which can be configured as a redundant mode. So if primary is lost, the connection, it will get to automatically to the secondary connection, or we can use it as switch mode. So this is like a little switch of 2 ports, and we can just have the same network that we got in the primary. We can have another device here connected to the secondary, okay? And we've got flexible routing. This is new as well in this new version. What is flexible routing? Up to now, we had the input ports, okay, connected. Let's start with the analog ones, okay? We've got an analog input 1 that is connected to the matrix preamp and the matrix input 1, okay? Okay, input 2, the same, input 3, 4, 5, 8, okay? And then the digital ones work in the same way, okay? And what about the outputs? We had the outputs connected, the first output of the matrix is connected to the first output port, the analog output port. What is all of this about, the flexible routing? Okay, now you can make this. So you can send, for example, analog input port, okay, can be sent to 2 inputs of the matrix. In fact, in the software is more the other way around. So you can choose which input port gets into the matrix. So here you choose analog input 1, and maybe in number 8, channel number 8, you can again repeat and have analog input 1 port signal onto the 8th channel number 8. Okay. And well, as you see, it's totally flexible. And in the outputs, we can make this. let's say we can send the same to the same port different output signals, and they will be summed up. So we can send from matrix output channel number 1. It can be sent to analog port number 1, and matrix channel number 8 can be sent to the number 1 as well, as you want. Totally flexible. Okay. So this is a new feature for MIMO 4040DN for this firmware that is available now in the website. Okay, so we've got also 8 GPOs and 8 GPIs, and we've got the Ethernet port for EclerNet communication. UCPs come from, if it's a UCP server, the UCPs come from this port, and the TPNet protocol also is this port that you have to connect. Okay. It's got a DB9 for TPNet protocol for receiving commands. Again, MIMO 4040 receives command, does not send command. You cannot control a device through MIMO 40x40. Okay, MIMO 40x40 can get controlled from a third-party control. Okay, it has an embedded UCP server, so you don't need any PC or WPNet touch to work with UCPs. And it can be controlled as well, not only from analog, but from digital remotes. It's got NTP synchronization, so it automatically synchronizes the clock from an NTP server, and it's AES67 compatible. Okay. Let's talk about scalability. Okay. We've got MIMO 40x40, okay, which has 8 analog inputs and 32 inputs, digital inputs that come from 32 sources. Okay. Okay, so we can have a 14 zones installation. You've got these inputs onto the installation. What means an installation? It means maybe having like here 4 bobs, I mean 8 bobs, okay, and that receive 32 Dante channels, and 1 bob is connected to 4 channels amplifier, for example, okay, which feed 4 zones for loudspeaker lines. Okay, so another bob will feed other 4 zones. Okay, and if we move forward, okay, we will have like all these amplifiers, and at the end we've got here 8 analog signals. We need another pair of amplifiers, so we've got a 14 zones installation like this. Okay, so this is how it will be controlled. This, okay, you will have the UCPs served by MIMO 4040, and from any device it can be controlled. Let's say a PC or a WPNet touch or a PageNet. Any device that can read these UCPs will be controlling the MIMO 4040. Okay, so the question here is, okay, we have a MIMO 4040. Can I make a project with more zones than 40 zones? The answer is usually yes. Okay. Okay, so remember the example I said about SG matrices. If you split the sources onto 2 matrices, you've got like a matrix of 8 inputs and 20 outputs. So you can do more or less the same with a MIMO 40 by 40. Well, not a MIMO, but 2 of them. Okay, you've got 8 sources that are connected to an 80 zones installation, and you receive the signals, and it's controlled from the network, and you have other MIMO 40 by 40 matrix. Okay, and maybe the sources are the same, and you've got 64 channels that are sent to the installation. So you can just make the control, double the controls, and that's it. So as long as we don't need 18 different sources, sorry, not 18, but 80 different sources, you can have an 80 zone installation. Let's think about example. Let's think about an airport. Okay, you've got gates from A, from 1 to 15, B, whatever. Okay, gates B, gate C, and gates D. Okay, you got some common areas, parkings, halls, those places where the restaurants, whatever. Okay, okay, let's count. It's up to 117 sources. Okay, and how many zones? Okay, maybe there are 131 zones. We connect to the system. Okay, so everything is connected, but what we need here inside, the easy way is, okay, I count, I need 131 zones, so I can just use a symmetrics matrix and make something like one matrix of 131 by 131. If you look at manufacturer, you probably will not find anyone having a matrix like this. And maybe you can find 256, or maybe you cannot find 256, and maybe you have to choose a 512 matrix because there are 8 multiples. 512 matrix is more or less like 30,000 euros. So it's quite a big cost. And if you start thinking carefully, do we need these signals of gates number A, let's say a gate A12, okay, gate A12, it has to be, it has to send the signal to loudspeakers in A12 zone, no? It will have to be sent to gates E? No, never. So inputs have not to be shared. You don't need a symmetrical matrix. So if you start thinking carefully, maybe you can just use 4 different MIMOs. And what has to be common are the common inputs. So general mic, message player, and an emergency message. So you can send these signals to all of them, all of the MIMOs, and you can cover maybe the common areas from each and every MIMO. So maybe this MIMO, which takes care of B gates, it's installed right here, and maybe you can cover this parking lot and some restaurant zone from this MIMO, and it's in a rack next to here, and you have another rack and another place in C, and takes care of these zones here next to it. So you've got not only the MIMO, but also the amplifiers. So just keep in mind, it's not about channels, it's about just reading carefully if you can achieve some project which is more than 40 zones. usually it's possible. Okay. Okay, so we will have to create the UCPs, the corresponding UCPs. Okay. Okay. The conference version. Okay, this completely new. MIMO 4040 conference. It's a firmware change as well as before, and you can change that for free. And it's for conference version. Okay, so it has also the auto mixing and the feedback killer. Okay. What we have incorporated that has been demanded from many places is the acoustic echo cancellation. Okay, and as well as before, acoustic echo cancellation is it demands a lot of power from the DSP. So when you add microphones that do need to get to have this algorithm, then the matrix is reduced. We'll see later on how it works this. Okay, so here we have a MIMO and we have the AAC algorithm, okay, that works in parallel of the matrix. So the matrix can be configured some with other things, and you can have acoustic echo cancellation in parallel. Okay. Okay, so how big is my matrix? It depends on the number of channels in the algorithm. Okay, so if we got no channels and we just use auto mixer and feedback killer, you will have a matrix of 40 by 40. If you have one channel used as an acoustic echo cancellation, you will get 36 channels of the mixer. 2 channels, 32. So each time you add one channel onto the AEC, okay, you will get reduced your matrix by 4. Okay, let me show you how it works. Here, this is a MIMO 4040 in conference version. We are offline, so you can try yourselves at your homes because it's just the software offline. So here it says we've got 0 microphones, so you've got a matrix of 40 by 40. 0 microphones in AEC module, so the matrix is 40 by 40. If I put one microphone, it's 36 by 36. 2 microphones, 3 microphones, 4 mics, 7 mics. Here you can see we lose these outputs of the matrix, 8 mics. So here, as you see, we have 8 mics, which is the maximum number of microphones available in the AAC module. It's 8, and we get reduced the matrix to a matrix of 8 by 8. Okay. So we only can have analog inputs then? No, because we have flexible routing, remember? So we can have any port can be redirected to this input of the matrix. So you can have digital input port 1, digital input port 2, analog input port 3, whatever. So we can create, and the same in the outputs. We can send the outputs wherever I want, but just we get a matrix of 8 by 8. Okay. Okay, so AEC. I will not get very deep into AEC because it will take another day, of course. But just to have the concept, okay, having the concept of how it works. We've got 4 AEC modules, rooms available, okay? So, and we can have 8 mix maximum that can be processed, okay? 2 licenses, each mic it's a license. 2 licenses are included, are not included, are provided for free. You have to ask your provider, and each MIMO can have 2 mics in AEC for free. Okay, if you want to have 4 or 6 or 8, you will have to pay for these licenses. Okay. Okay, so what's all about AEC? In AEC, you've got a near end, which is where you are supposed to speak and listen to your partner, which is in the far end. Okay. So, and here in between, there's the transmission line, which can be soft codec, whatever, Skype or Zoom or telephone line, whatever. So here is the, let's say, the distance. Okay. Okay, so how it works? I talk through a microphone and it's sent to the remote, to my partner's loudspeaker. Okay. And here, my partner's microphone, and when he talks, okay, the sound travels through the line to the local speaker. Okay, so I hear what's in that mic. Okay. Okay, but what happens that this loudspeaker, if it sounds, maybe the sound is inserted again in this microphone, the sound of the loudspeaker, and my partner will hear himself after some time. Okay, and this is an echo. So this is when the acoustic echo cancellation, okay, it's activated, and then it reduces or cancels the echo. So what happens? I have a MIMO 4040, and what is cancelled is the echo of my partner, the far end echo. Okay, I will still have echo at my side. If I don't want an echo at my side, I have to ask my partner to buy a MIMO 4040, and then you will have the acoustic echo cancellation in both ends. Okay, so my algorithm just benefits the other end. Okay, not my end. Okay, so I can just show you. If I add here a MIMO 4040 conference, and I add here a MIMO 4040, you have seen that in this version, for the ones that had used MIMO 4040 in the previous versions of EclerNet, we have changed the layout. So it used to be similar. The layout of MIMO 88 and MIMO 4040 used to be similar. Now it's a little bit different, but it has the same things. Now we have additional features, but at the end we have the same buttons, but in other positions. Okay. Okay, so here between the MIMO 4040DN and the MIMO 4040DN conference, you see, let's put it like here, you've got the AAC, and we've got also auto mixer and feedback killer. Okay. Okay, so here in MIMO conference, here we've got the AAC. We've got 4 rooms available, 4 different rooms. Okay, and we can assign to each room a local mic, or we have to say which ports are assigned to each and every signal. If you get a little bit lost with these concepts, we have added a tool which is just an image here. You can see what are we talking about, because sometimes at the beginning is a little bit confusing, so many concepts. So Okay, if I go here, we are talking about my far end, the remote mic return. Okay, so this is this signal that gets into the matrix. So I have to choose which port, in which port I can find this signal. Okay, so in order not to get lost, we added this tool, which is I think it's quite a good thing, just to not getting confused. Okay, so well, I will not get deeper into this, but you can check it. The manual is updated, so there's the full explanation in the manual for those who are interested. Okay. Okay, so let's move on and let's go for EclerNet Manager, the VEO devices. Okay, so these are video over IP. This has been not in this version, but it's been in two. I think that the two previous versions included the VEO devices. Okay, it's a video over IP extender. Okay, 4K, low latency. The 2L is low latency. We have another model, which is the 1C, which is not native in EclerNet Manager, which has more latency. It's point-to-point and multi-point technology. A video wall, we can create video walls with this one up to 8x8 monitors. Okay. It has audio de-embedder. We can have a keyboard and mouse extension over IP. This means that we can just connect mouse and keyboard into the receiver where we see the image, and the transmitter will get those signals of the mouse and the keyboard. And if we connect the USB of the transmitter to the PC, we can get control from the other side. Okay. It has also RS-232 or infrared over IP extension. The same way, we can have RS-232 transmitted through the network between the transmitter and the receiver. And it's PoE, or it has also an external power supply, okay, which is included. So let's think about an example. Let's think about 2 rooms, okay, an event venue with 2 rooms and a hall, okay. We've got digital signage, okay, and a Blu-ray and a camera onto this venue. And maybe we have a room with a projector, okay. So here we have the transmitters, here we have the receivers. So maybe we have a computer that we want to send to the projector as well, or we can, maybe in the hall, we have another monitor to see what's happening inside, or to display digital signage, whatever. And we've got another room with a video wall, maybe 2x2, okay? So, and this, everything will be controlled from WPNet Touch. So you can decide which signals have to be displayed in each and every receiver. If we've got connected the USB cable, we can have control from the rooms, okay, to this PC, or maybe we have 2 PCs and each room controls 1 PC because they are making 2 presentations at the same time. Another thing that we can just do with EclerNet is controlling other devices. So maybe we want to select if we want the projector to be in standby or not, or to be on. We can create a button here, and if it's got the network connection, and you can send commands, UDP commands or TCP commands to the projector for selecting if it's on or off or whatever. We can create a button here and send these commands through the network. Almost all the projectors receive commands, okay? Or maybe the camera, we can send commands to the camera, okay? Different preset positions. Also, we can create a button here and send in commands, UDP or TCP commands to the camera, okay? Maybe you have a screen with a motorized screen, with a motor that receives command from RS-232, okay? Can we send RS-232 command? Well, actually, we have a RS-232 adapter, which converts the signal from TCP or UDP to RS-232. So we send the command from the WPNet touch to, to the adapter, and then this is converted into RS-232 and onto the motor. So we can just put the screen up or down. Another possibility. Okay, so we've covered almost all this product range which EclerNet has, okay? And I wanted to just start over the software, okay? Let's go over the software. Okay. Because now it's time for the software. Before starting onto the software, let's talk about where I can find information on these resources, okay? Because sometimes it's important to know where is the information, better than giving the information. Okay, you have a user manual of 407 pages in the website. So you get onto the audio section, you go to software and you select EclerNet Manager, and it will appear a website like this. And then you get into user manual. This is in Spanish, but in English is the same way, user manual. And then you've got here also the TPNet manual, okay, and data sheets and text files, etc. What is important to know is that the user manual, it explains how to configure the device in the manual. So if you go to, for example, DuoNet manual, you will get a manual that talks about the hardware, but not about the software. So you have to be careful about that. Also in MIMO, in the manual of the MIMO, you will be, it is plain about the hardware, but not about how to configure things in EclerNet Manager. So that's why this manual is 400 pages, because it includes not only MIMOs, but also DuoNet, NXA, and the other devices explanation, okay? Also, you've got the datasheets here and the text files. In the software, you've got also the latest software and firmware. Always they match. Software and firmware, they have to match to work with the devices. So it's a great advice when you get the devices, the first thing you have to do is get the latest firmware and the latest software and install it. It's a recommendation, because then you start from the latest and the most recent firmware. We always are updating and solving maybe bugs that it might appear, or improving things. So it's nice to have this software and firmware. Okay. We've got here also examples, projects, and also you will find panels and pages. You can UCP panels or pages that you can just take advantage of and use it to change it and modify it to your taste or to your project. And also we have got the media section. In the media section, you will find more than 11 videos. It's more than 1 hour of tutorials. Okay, so when you are in the barber shop, okay, you can just wait and see the tutorials in your smartphone. Okay. Okay. So let's start with the software. Okay. Here we've got this Project Explorer window. Okay. Here you have 3 concepts: devices, which are the devices included in the project; channels, which are all the channels that are in the project; user control panels are the UCPs that are in this project. So you've got several panels. And when you select here, it appears here the window for configuring this device, the one that is selected. Okay, if you push here, it will appear. If you push and click onto a UCP, here it will appear the UCP. Okay, this one is an auxiliary window that we will select what to display in depending on what we are doing. We will see later on. Okay. Okay, so let's see the MIMO deeply. Okay, because it's the more complex device, and once you understand the MIMO, then the other ones are bread and butter. I mean, they are quite easy. If you understand the MIMO, the other ones are something more understandable. Okay. Okay, so we've got the inputs tab. Okay, and we've got input, the preamp, delay, parametric EQs, gates, compressors, level, and the frequency shifter. Okay, so here in the inputs tab, you see this is the layout of MIMO 4040. Okay, we've got the same things, the input, but here is where we select this flexible routing. Okay, here we can just select if we want input port 1 or input port whatever. Okay, this is not in MIMO 88, which doesn't have any flexible routing. Delay, parametric EQs, noise gates, and compressors. Okay, you've got level in here, and you've got the frequency shifter. So you've got the same things, but they are in other places. Okay. Okay, so you see, also if you are not working with, let's say, with the noise gate, you can just click on here and deactivate it. So you can easily understand which modules are working and which modules are not working. Okay. Okay. So what about the inputs? In the inputs, we adjust the sensitivity, okay, depending on the type of source we have, and we can activate a phantom. The phantom is 42 volts, okay, phantom in all our MIMOs. Here we have a fine adjusting of the gain and if it's mono or a stereo input, okay. The delay, here we can adjust delay, we can change the units, okay, in the input. Sorry, a parametric EQ, okay. We can choose the type of filter, okay, different types of filter, the frequency, the gain, the Q. Okay, we've got also a graphical window, which you can find. Let me show you. You can find here, for example, if you add a parametric EQ in input 1, okay, we can go here and display input 1. Okay, here is my parametric. I can change it from here. Okay, let's put some gain. I can change the Q and the frequency, but it's more comfortable to change it directly on the graph, and with the middle, you can just adjust the Q and go up and down and adjust the frequency and the gain. Okay, and you can add as many as you have. Okay, you can see many signals here at the same time. So if you want, but just here input, you add the parametric EQ, and here you have both signals. Okay, you can see them at the same time. Okay, so this is here. Do not forget. Okay. The noise gate, okay, I will not get deep into this. If you don't know what is a noise gate, you should just cover this in the user manual, okay? You have an explanation, but it's an audio tool, which is very common. So you will find also in the internet if you want to get deeper into noise gates, okay? But here you have the usual parameters, the threshold, the depth, okay, and the attack, hold, and release, okay. Also about the compressors, okay, we've got the regular parameters here to adjust. Here in a compressor, if you need a compressor for a microphone or whatever, here you have it. Level, we have a mute of 100 dBs of attenuation, okay, the phase inversion, and we've got 18 dBs of headroom between the 0 and plus 18. And here we have 2 meters. In the left side, we have a pre-feather meter, and in the right side, we have a post-feather meter. So these are the 2 meters that are shown in each channel, okay? And finally, the frequency shifter, okay? The frequency shifter, it's a tool to reduce the possibility of feedback, okay? You know that feedback is just frequency that gets into the microphone, okay? It is amplified, and then the loudspeaker takes this signal and it gets again onto the microphone and it's amplified, and then we got a tone, okay? So what does the frequency shift, how it acts, or what is the thing that is behind this? It displaces the signal in some hertz, so maybe 5 hertz, something like that. If you got feedback at 100 hertz, so it will get 100 hertz, and it will just be on the output of the speakers 105 hertz. So you break this loop, okay? So this is useful for speech applications, but don't do it for music applications, because they will be out of tone. Okay, so it's better if you use just for speech applications. Okay, about the outputs, we have more or less the same parametrics, if it's stereo or not, the delay. So what's different? We have crossover and the limiter, okay? Here we have the crossover here and the limiter, Okay, so the crossover, we have several different filters. Okay, it can be seen also from the graph. And we have a limiter, okay, with the usual parameters of a limiter. Okay, a limiter is like a compressor, but up to the limit, an infinite compressor. So what about the matrix? We are about to, it's 10 minutes left to finish. Okay, so the matrix, we've got inputs and outputs and the cross points and groups. Okay, let's see here in MIMO 40 by 40, almost the same, but a lot of more groups. Okay, up to 20. So outputs and inputs, this is a muted cross point. This is a unmuted cross point. This is the cross point when I select. So this level here is the one that that I've got selected. So I can, if I want to adjust to -10, maybe it's better to select and put -10 here. And I want to highlight the stereo options. Okay, let me show you, because it's better to show than to explain. Here we have a MIMO 88. Okay, let's mute everything. So let's think about that we have an stereo input, we'll put it here, and an stereo output. Okay, here we've got in the matrix, here we see stereo and stereo. So this is a piece of advice. Whenever you work with a stereo, okay, you can select the same thing here, okay, and select and deselect. Just add the chain which is next to the rings, okay? Why? Because then it acts as a in the matrix. It acts as one input or one output. Let me explain. Let me show you. Here you've got input 1 and input 2 in stereo mode, and output 1 and output 2 in stereo mode. If I click here and I select to be input 1 to be routed to output 1, the input 2 follows and it's sent to output 2 because this is an output, a stereo output. If we do the same to a mono output, okay, it happens the same. If I route one, the other one follows, okay? And the same happens here. I use a mono input and I send it to a stereo output, okay? So here you see, the other one follows, okay? And a mono input or mono output is just one cross point, so it's easy. If this is not selected, you can do the routing wherever you want, which is, it might be useful sometimes, but most of the times you want to work the other way around, okay? So this is the piece of advice. Please, whenever you have a stereo signal, just click on the link mode here in the matrix to just make everything follow, okay? So you will not have any problem. And whenever you find that they have to be split up, then you change to stereo mode, okay? Okay, so groups. Groups is a tool to group and synchronize matrix controls, okay? Okay, let me show you here also. We have groups here, and there are 4 types of groups: mute group, volume and mute group, and parallel output group. Let me show you the third one, which is mute and volume group, which is easy to understand. Okay, so let's put this. Okay, so I can just select the cross point or the input and outputs I want to make behave in the same way in terms of mute and level. You see, all behave the same way, no matter which one I change, because all are like, they are all like one. Okay, this is mute because it follows the mute, and volume because it follows the volume. Okay, perfect. Easy to understand. Parallel output groups. What is parallel output groups? Let me show you. Here it's about columns, it's not about points. So I want this output 1 to behave as the same way as output 8. Okay, so whatever I mix here in output 8 will be the same. Okay, if we have maybe stereo outputs and stereo inputs, okay, will behave the same way. So, for example, if output 8 is the sub of a room which has output 1 and output 2 as the top cabinet, I wrote input 1, which is stereo with input 2. I route it to these tops, and the sub will have the same signal at the same level. So this is what is used for. Okay. So it's perfect for subwoofers or for combined rooms. Let's think about a hotel. Okay, a hotel. Most of the times they have 2 rooms with a folding wall in between, and you want to act them the rooms to behave as independent rooms when the wall is unfolded. But when you fold it and you combine 2 rooms, you want these 2 loudspeaker systems behave the same way, to have the same mix. So then you activate parallel output groups and make both mixes the same at the same time. Okay. So up to here, events and presets. I think that we will not follow this. We will continue tomorrow with this.